President Trump hauled his cabinet to Camp David today and was asked during the reporter Q&A a basic question about the Iran war, a conflict that was originally said to likely last 4 to 5 weeks, that tomorrow will enter its 6th month.
On Iran, Mr. President, you said they do have some capabilities left. Should Americans be prepared for these back and forth attacks to continue until Iran simply isn't able of striking back?
They'll get weaker. They'll get a little stronger maybe now, but they'll get weaker and then they peter out. Yeah, sure, I think so. I mean, it would be foolish to say no. You know, you always have to keep your guard up.
Iran has suffered repeated military blows and has no known ability to counteract U.S. airstrikes. Yet, after absorbing airstrikes, it keeps firing missiles and drones. Some do damage and inflict casualties on American forces. Most do not, because they're intercepted mostly. But Iran remains in the military game, though in diminished form. We should also remind ourselves the Strait of Hormuz remains snarled. There's no sign of fruitful negotiations to reestablish free passage there or remove Iranian threats from neighboring waterways. Trump was asked, what's going to change?
Well, I think we just want to win. You know, we just want to win. We're doing very well. We're trying to be nice as you can be in, you know, a situation like that. But, you know, they're being decimated. They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no anti-aircraft. Doesn't mean they don't have any capability. They have some, but very little. You know, at some point they're going to say, we just can't take it anymore.
Quick historical note. Iraq invaded Iran in 1980. The war of attrition there lasted 8 years. Iran suffered at least 500,000 combat deaths, and it never surrendered. That doesn't mean Iran won't crack this time, but Trump's options remain limited. His aversion to a U.S. ground invasion or U.S. attacks on bridges and power plants advertise themselves daily. Yet, interestingly, on that last point, CBS News this afternoon has learned Trump is considering a coordinated set of airstrikes with Israel on Iranian energy targets, and that preparations are being made for that attack as soon as this weekend. Important caveat. The final decision pending. Another thing to think about, Trump time. You know, that concept that Donald Trump can uniquely will things into quicker resolution? What's being tested here? The same could be said of his Attorney General nominee, Todd Blanche, and we will pick things up there with Nancy Cordes, who joins us at the White House. Nancy, I want to play for you something the president said today when asked about the thing that is hanging up the Todd Blanche as Attorney General confirmation, the status of the so-called weaponization fund. Let's listen.
It's dead, but, you know, I wish it weren't, to be honest with you. I think people were horribly treated, horribly abused. This has nothing to do with Todd. This was me. Horribly abused, and I'd like to see them compensated.
It's dead, but I wish it weren't. That continues to irritate and bother Senate Republicans opposed to Blanche because they want that thing dead in writing and other things they're interested in. Right, Nancy?
That's correct. And in fact, Tom Tillis, the retiring Republican from North Carolina, actually posted on social media after the president made those comments to say the fact that President Trump is saying that it's dead, but he wish he wasn't, is exactly the reason that we want it in writing that this weaponization fund will not come back. So far, they haven't gotten it in writing, and that's why Tillis and John Cornyn of Texas are holding out. President Trump said of Cornyn today that he understands why Cornyn is mad at him because President Trump backed his challenger in a Republican primary in Cornyn's bid for re-election. Cornyn lost that bid. President Trump said he'd probably be angry, too, if he were in Cornyn's position. But what President Trump did not say was that he was going to authorize anyone to put this promise in writing.
And what do you know, Nancy, about reporting from our colleagues Margaret Brennan, James Laporta, and Jennifer Jacobs about new options President Trump is weighing in the war with Iran?
What they have learned, Major, is that the U.S. and Israel are working together, planning for what would constitute major strikes on Iranian infrastructure. Think refineries, think power plants, as soon as this weekend, if President Trump gives the go-ahead. And President Trump at Camp David today said that he was going to hit Iran very hard. He said he was very frustrated with the pace of negotiations. He said that the Iranians are dishonest, that they are disloyal. And the fact that the U.S. and the Israelis are working together on this is notable, Major, because the Israelis have really stayed out of the theater. They have not been striking Iran ever since the memorandum of understanding was signed, even before that. So this would be a major escalation.
Nancy Cordes, thank you so very much. CBS News national security contributor Sam Vinograd joins me now here at the family table. Sam, your analysis of what you just heard and what we were reporting?
Well, it's standard operating procedure for any president to look at the range of targets the U.S. military could strike in an armed conflict. That's just good housekeeping. It also appears to be standard operating procedure for the Trump administration to publicly, or not publicly, but to give to reporters information that is considering escalating attacks against Iran.
A sign to Iran.
Yes, if Iran doesn't comply. So they're negotiating somewhat through the media by trying to tell Iran they're going to put on even more pressure if Iran doesn't.
Something that the president says he never wants to do, telegraph. But he's kind of trying to telegraph now to get some sort of diplomatic thing going, it sounds like.
It's not the first time.
Right.
But I do want to note, strikes against energy infrastructure, depends on what the targets are, could indeed be a violation of international law. So if this is energy infrastructure that's used solely for civilian purposes, that would be a violation of international law. But we have to wait and see what happens. We know there's been no final decision at this stage, so this could be public messaging. But Major, you made a really important point in your opening, which is Iran fought against Iraq for several years. They lost hundreds of thousands of people, and they didn't end the war. The idea that Iran is only going to stop its current military campaign if the U.S. keeps bombing Iran, I think is misguided. And if President Trump is talking to actual experts on Iran or his intelligence community, he's likely getting that same advice.
Sam, I often rely on you for lots of different things, and I'm going to test that proposition today because there was an announcement made yesterday about a breakthrough between Israel and Hamas. And the president said today it's a reflection of success in the Iran war. Let's listen to that.
But that will be it's a great breakthrough. Nobody thought that would be possible to disarm Hamas. That shows you how much success we're having with Iran. Because if you go 4 months ago, 5 months ago, a deal like that would have been impossible.
So it's been agreed to. There are lots of snarled details about how this would be implemented, if it will even be implemented. But the president's trying to say this wouldn't happen if we weren't at war with Iran. Evaluate that.
Well, Hamas for decades has received financial support, training, and guidance from Iran. They are one of Iran's key proxies in the region. So I don't pretend to understand what's going through President Trump's mind, but perhaps he's trying to indicate that Iran's ability to support proxies globally has been degraded to some degree. I don't know that his intelligence community or counterterrorism experts would agree with that, but certainly it is quite interesting that Hamas would be willing to even talk about disarmament for the first time when we all know that Iran does not want its proxies backing away from striking Israel. Iran remains very intent on trying to destroy the Jewish state.
There was a meeting at the White House this week between the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the president. Ukrainian President Zelensky made it clear he asked for expedited approval of Patriot anti-missile systems in Ukraine. The president was asked about that today, the technology and the licensing thereof, and here's what he had to say.
You have to be very judicious, but you have to be very careful. Now, we have not agreed to that. We're talking about it, but it's a hard thing to give away that kind of technology. And I don't think this would ever happen, but you know, those people that you give that technology, they can someday turn on you.
What do you hear there, Sam?
We've heard a lot of different messaging on this technology to create Patriot interceptor batteries from the Trump administration. So it's unclear exactly what stage this is at. But what I'm hearing is that President Trump is worried about giving this technology to Ukraine to defend itself against Russia based on some assumption that Ukraine could then use interceptor batteries against us when these batteries are to protect from incoming missiles. So I'm not exactly sure what he means there.
It is a bit...
They're defensive in nature, to be clear.
A bit on the confusing side. Sam Vinograd.
Thanks.
Thanks so very much.